Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time. Whether you've heard me say this before or not, without Final Fantasy VII, I wouldn't be here. Here in this video, not as in here as in being in this world. Whatever, moving on. Final Fantasy VII is the game that I believe made me into the gamer that I am today. It was my first step into the world of RPGs, and I've been a huge fan since. Whether it's listening to the music, thinking about the characters, or sharing the stories with others, Final Fantasy has been a part of my life from a young age. So today we're going to talk about Final Fantasy VII, or more specifically my top favorite moments in Final Fantasy VII. With Final Fantasy VII Remake being just a couple of weeks away, I feel like this is the perfect time for me to reminisce about the original before creating new memories with the remake. As you may know, the remake covers Midgar only, so for now I'll keep my list of favorite moments limited to just the Midgar portion of the original game. I plan on doing more favorite moments videos in the future if this goes well, because Final Fantasy VII is full of great moments, so I guess you can think of this as a part 1. If you want to see more parts, then be sure to let me know. But before we continue, I have to give this warning. If you have never played Final Fantasy VII and you do not want to be spoiled, then I would suggest you not watch this video because it will be filled with spoilers. Actually, I'd suggest you go out and play the original right now. You can find it on just about any console and it's really worth the playthrough. But anyway, last warning. From this point on, it's spoiler territory, so continue at your own risk. Still here? Good. On to the video. Number 5. Alright, to start off the list is the motorcycle chase minigame for the Escape from Shinra headquarters. As a kid, I thought that motorcycles were one of the coolest things ever, and I thought that Cloud was cool as hell, so him plus a motorcycle was the epitome of cool to 9-year-old me. I remember wanting to get a motorcycle when I got older so that I could be just as much of a badass as Cloud was. Of course, that didn't happen, I never got a motorcycle, but that's okay, because I did get to play this sweet minigame. And looking back at it now, this minigame isn't all that great, but I have fond memories of keeping a save that I would go back to occasionally just so I could replay it over and over. I damn near lost my mind when I found out that I could replay it at the Gold Saucer later in the game. You gotta remember, I was like 9 or 10 years old at the time, so forgive me. But that's why it's the lowest on the list. It's up there as a fond memory, even if it's just because I loved it so much as a kid. Number 4. As Cloud and the group infiltrate the Shinra headquarters, they come across one of Hojo's containment tanks holding his precious specimen that kind of looks like a lion or a wolf or something. They go up to the next floor and confront Hojo, who plans on breeding this specimen with Aerith, who's actually trapped in a tank with the creature. Of course, that can't be allowed, so Barrett shoots up the containment tank until it opens, and then out jumps the lion wolf thing, who then attacks Hojo. At this time I'm thinking, okay, now we have to fight this thing, so here I am getting mentally prepared that this is our next boss fight, except you find out that there's a different specimen on its way. The lion wolf specimen talks to the group, much to their surprise, and it tells them that it's going to help them against the monster that's on its way. He tells Cloud that Red 13 is the name that Hojo gave him, and that he doesn't care what they call him, which we find out later that his name is Nanaki, but I actually like calling him Red 13. So they defeat Hojo's monster with his help, and afterwards you find out that Red 13 is actually quite intelligent. Red 13 became one of my favorite characters throughout this game. One of the big contributing factors is that wolves are my favorite animals, so I was drawn to him from that alone because of his wolf-like appearance. At first you don't know too much about him because he keeps to himself and doesn't really discuss his past. But after the party reaches his home Cosmo Canyon, he opens up a little and you learn more about him, and it really changed how I viewed him. Initially, I thought of Red 13 as this wise warrior because that's how he carries himself, calm, observant, and well-spoken. But you learn that really he's still kind of a kid. Not because he acts like one, but because in his race he's young and still learning. Which reminds me, we don't know a lot about his race. Hopefully that changes with the remake. Number 3. Cloud falls through the roof of a church in Sector 5, and that's where he meets the flower girl Aerith. Technically they run into each other earlier, but anyway, The two talk for a bit, and soon Reno from the Turks comes in with a few Shinra soldiers looking for Aerith. She asks Cloud to be her bodyguard and escort her home safely, with his payment being a date with her, which he accepts. So they escape through the back of the church and make their way through the Sector 5 slums, and when you get to Aerith's house, you see that where she lives is full of flowers, a big contrast from the depressing and broken down slums that you go through to get there. After getting her home, Aerith tells Cloud that she'll show him the way to Sector 7, but her mom, Elmira, tells Cloud to leave on his own in the middle of the night. I mean, she's not exactly okay with Aerith hanging out with some Mako-eyed dude that just came out of nowhere. So Cloud does just that. He leaves and heads towards Sector 7 only to find Aerith waiting for him. I like this scenario for two reasons. One, you see that when Aerith makes up her mind, there's no changing it. She's gonna do what she wants whether you agree with it or not. I like her positive, upbeat attitude, because everything in the game up until you meet Aerith is a bit dark and depressing. So it's a nice change. It's kind of like she's the light in this dark world, which brings me to my other reason for liking this. Before Cloud meets Aerith, he's pretty cold and cocky, really standoffish, but that seems to melt away the more he's around her. While others seem to accept that Cloud's a cold guy, Aerith kind of forces him out of that. She basically pushes him to open up in a sense. Number 2. After making it to Wall Market in the Sector 6 slums, Cloud and Aerith try to enter Don Corneo's mansion after finding out that Tifa is there. The problem is that the guard only lets women inside, with no other option except letting Aerith go alone. Cloud is left with no choice but to dress as a woman in order to be let in. This is the start of a quest to get Cloud a wig, dress, makeup, and other things in order to complete his disguise. You could either do the bare minimum and disguise Cloud just enough to get inside, or you could go all out and get the best disguise that not only gets Cloud through the door, but gets him picked by Don Corneo as his bride for the night. My first time through the game, I had no idea about this extra mile, and I literally just got what I had to get. It wasn't until talking to a friend at school that I found out that there was so much more that I was missing. So I played through the game again, got the wig, got the best dress, got into the Honeybee Inn, got scarred, got all the extra little things you had to get, and ended up with the best disguise possible. Whenever I think about Final Fantasy VII, the Wall Market quest is one of the first things that comes to mind. It was so unexpected and hilarious, and I love it so much. I can't wait to see this redone in a remake. Number 2.5. Before we continue on to number 1, I have to squeeze in this honorable mention. While it's not in my top 5, it's definitely something memorable and I have to acknowledge it. After the cinematic intro, you start the game right in the thick of the action, jumping off of a train and fighting your way through soldiers on your way to blow up the reactor. I didn't quite get what was going on as a kid, but it definitely left an impression. I remember liking the characters almost immediately, fighting the guard scorpion and attacking while the tail was up only to die and be left wondering what I was doing wrong. Then after finally succeeding, I realized that I had 10 minutes to get out, so I book it out of there only to find out that I can't get out because I didn't know that I had to help Jessie free her leg. So I go back and get her and end up making it out just in time. Then you see the fruits of your labor, this huge explosion from the reactor. Then the group has to split up so that they're not caught, except Cloud eventually does get caught and surrounded, so he escapes by jumping on top of a train as it passes through a tunnel. This whole opening was so cool to me, and playing through Final Fantasy VII Remake demo reminded me just how much I love the opening to this game. It set the stage for what became my favorite game of all time. Number 1. And here we are at number 1. My top favorite moment in the Midgar portion of Final Fantasy VII. Cloud and the group end up getting captured and being held prisoner by Shinra. They fall asleep in their cells, and Cloud wakes up to find that his cell is open and the guard outside is dead. After letting the others out, they make their way out of there and come across the containment that was holding Jenova, except she's broken out and left behind a blood trail. As you follow the trail, you encounter monsters accompanied by the creepy music that's playing instead of the usual battle theme. When you finally get to President Shinra's office, you see that he's dead, with a giant sword sticking through him. Cloud and Tifa figure that Sephiroth must be the culprit after recognizing the sword as his, even though he's believed to be dead. Palmer confirms that it was Sephiroth by telling them that he saw him with his own eyes. I like this moment because of how airy it is. It's almost as if it was part of a horror game. And not only that, but it's the start of what you find out is a bigger problem than Shinra. Through the game so far, you believe that Shinra was the big threat, and that once he's dealt with, the planet will be in a better position. But after discovering the mysterious Sephiroth and his plan to find the promised land, you realize that there's a whole lot more to this, and this is really just the beginning. And with that, I'm gonna end the video. I had a lot of fun looking back at the moments I enjoyed, so I really hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me down in the comments what your favorite moment in Final Fantasy VII was. If you liked the video, then please leave a like. Oh, and if you want to see more favorite moments videos like this, then let me know down in the comments. And subscribe if you're not already. There's a lot more Final Fantasy related content in store if you do. Thank you guys for watching, and be sure to enjoy the rest of your day. Bye guys!